The meaning of life is a concept that has had many people thinking endlessly about why the universe exists in the first place. There are people that try to make life meaningful. Religion, for example, is a way that people can go about chasing an objective or working towards something meaningful in their lives. It gives them guidance as to how they act and carry themselves, and also gives them a reason to continue living. There are also people that see the universe as nothing special but a coincidence in terms of how it came to be. There are people that think there is no meaning to life and that this is just a loop of absurdity. In this context, absurd would refer to the conflict of what we want from the universe and what the universe actually offers. And this point leads to the points of Albert Camus. Albert Camus, a political activist that lived from 1913 to 1960, describes his thoughts on the meaning of life through the myth of Sisyphus. To summarize the myth of Sisyphus, Sisyphus was a man that was punished by being trapped in eternity, and in this eternity, he would spend every single day pushing a boulder uphill, and once the end of the day came along and he was almost at the top of the hill, the boulder would roll back down all the way down to the bottom of the hill. He would then go back to pushing it back up the next day and have it fall at the end of the day. And this absurd loop happened every single day for eternity. Camus explains that the myth of Sisyphus is directly correlated to the reality that is life. Pushing a boulder uphill every day for nothing is exactly what we do with our lives today. Although we may not be physically pushing boulders up a hill every day, we do repeat the same process every single day. At the start of a new day, we wake up, then we go to work/school, then we eat, sleep, and repeat. And that is our process every single day. What it boils down to is life is just every day repeated, and eventually one realizes this absurd loop and asks themselves, what is this all for? In Camus' article, The Absurd, he talks about the mechanical second nature protocols we follow on a daily basis, and eventually the question of why arises. Camus says, weariness comes at the end of the acts of a mechanical life, but at the same time it inaugurates the impulse of consciousness. It awakens consciousness and proves what follows. What follows is the gradual return into the chain, or it is the definitive awakening. At the end of the awakening comes, in time, the consequence, suicide or recovery. Now, when Camus says this, he essentially means that eventually, there comes a moment in time where the mechanical acts that one performs on a daily basis becomes so apparently absurd that every aspect about life seems meaningless to them. When Camus explains the two consequences being suicide or recovery, he essentially is trying to say, yes, life is meaningless, and that is why we must give it meaning. If life and everything about it is meaningless, then suicide would be the correct answer. Since there is no point or meaning behind anything, what is the point of even playing the game that we call life in the first place? That is why it is so important to find meaning in one's life. It gives someone a reason to stay alive. Camus says that in a universe void of meaning and full of absurdity, the best option is to revolt against the absurdity. When you revolt against the absurdity, you are making a reason to live. In the article, Camus says, the revolt gives life its value. Life is absurd because our lives are both nothing and everything at the same time. In the grand scheme of the universe, the timeline of a human life is so incredibly small and meaningless. Everything a human being can do and achieve in their lifetime is basically meaningless because there will be a day when humanity is extinct and the solar system no longer exists, and there is no proof that human beings ever existed in the first place. In the case of Camus, When one recognizes the absurdity of the world, two consequences arise, either suicide or recovery. When one sees life as meaningless, it can cause them to end their life since they see no reason to live. On the other hand, the timeline of a human being is the only thing that will ever exist for that human being. With that being said, although the human's timeline is worth nothing in the grand scheme of the universe, that same exact timeline is everything from the perspective of the human. Because there are so many people in the world, there are many different beliefs as to what the meaning of life is. Some turn to religion to add meaning to their life, and others don't. But regardless of one's belief, Camus' standpoint can hold a lot of value for many people in this world. Camus' conclusions about the universe being completely neutral can bring some people down while it lifts others up. From this claim, one might see life as depressing and pointless, while another person might benefit from this realization and stop taking life so seriously. Camus' conclusions about how the lifespan of a human being is nothing and everything at the same time can also bring people down or lift them up. Some people might see this realization as life being pointless, while others may see the same exact realization as being inspiring as it causes them to appreciate their existence. Overall, the human lifespan may not be significant to the universe, but it is everything to the human, and that is enough reason for humans to keep going and pushing boundaries. For as long as humans have existed, human beings have created incredible things, incredible arts, incredible infrastructures, incredible concepts, and none of those would have existed had they not found their own meaning to their life.